Hi, it's Katy Mackenzie, your host of I Love Vancouver Real Estate and mortgage broker with TMG, the Mortgage Group. I'm here today with Jason King, with Jason King Architects. He's been an architect for over 25 years and designed projects in North America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. He's a multidisciplinary designer who has practiced architecture internationally. His experience covers a varied number of design fields, including architecture, landscape architecture, urban design experience, exhibition design, interior design, and industrial design. I could go on, but I'll let Jason do it for himself. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Katy.
An absolute pleasure. Jason, I'm really excited to have you here today and talk about architecture and how that fits in with Vancouver real estate. But really, what is the biggest opportunity that you can see in the Vancouver housing market as it relates to your profession?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely talk to that subject in terms of architecture. I think Vancouver is a fascinating place, and it's in a fascinating place at this time. I think we've been seeing the commodification of what we call the home recently, probably within the last 10 years. Not only through real estate speculation, but also through the media. The media we've seen a lot of TV shows that have developed around taking your house and making it into something that's much more about you. So TV shows like Love It or List It, The Property Brothers, magazines like Dwell, and the media has really kind of upped the stakes here. Mm-hmm. They've, on the one hand, they've kind of made your house into a product to be consumed. On the other hand, they've kind of upped the stakes where they've said, you can't just live in your home anymore. You've got to love it. You've got to you've got to find a way to kind of put your personal stamp on it. So it's an interesting phenomenon that's happening that's changing people's conception of what their house is. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, from the financial planning community, of which I'm sure you know very well, they've been telling us since our big, what should we call it? The big boom, but especially during the downturn in 2007, 2008, they've been reminding us that a house is not an investment, mm-hmm. that it's a place to live. And the government has designed the house as a forced savings vehicle, mm-hmm. and one that is meant to appreciate roughly at the rate of inflation. Mm-hmm. And they were actively dissuading people from thinking about houses as investments. And we saw the reason why in 2008 when everything imploded. So yeah, we've got these two strange ways of looking at how houses have been kind of commodified. And so back to your question, the biggest opportunity for me as an architect that I'm seeing comes out of a return to this understanding that your house is your home and not an investment. And you should customize your home. You should make it into a place that is nurturing for you, mm-hmm. that is going to support your life and your lifestyle. Paradoxically, this is made possible through this recent quirk, I'll call it a quirk, of Vancouver real estate, where we've seen Vancouver property behave like a pretty good investment over the last 10 years.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, houses have been going up.
But asking people to not use it as a bank account, rather as a home, and design it to live as opposed to using it as a bank account.
Exactly. And yeah, I guess my central argument is going to be that I believe in the power of architecture, that I believe that architecture can change your life, mm-hmm. that it can create a space that allows you to flourish and allows your life to flourish. And that's something that is not a cultural norm for us here in Canada or in Vancouver. And so, choose quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely take your equity windfall and invest it in your home and therefore in yourself. Mm-hmm. And don't necessarily accept what the development industry is peddling as a product. Think about what you need for a home and create this environment for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we talk about Vancouver, lifestyle in Vancouver, the air, the water, the mountains, but the home is, where we spend a lot of our time and our energy, and we should be taking that time to invest in it, to design it so it works for us, it functions for us, but beyond that, we grow in it and with it, I think, as well. We've turned to look at it as that commodity, absolutely, as opposed to a true home space.
Absolutely. And as, Katy, you're a Vancouverite.
Yes, born and bred.
I'm sure it's easy to forget that Vancouver is quite different from a lot of places in the world. Mm-hmm. Places like Toronto, New York, Hong Kong, where people live to work, where it's all about their lives are servicing their career trajectory. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of people that come to live in Vancouver specifically in order to hit the reset button and to think more about their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And Vancouver is an ideal place for that, for thinking that way. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of outdoor recreational opportunities. People, and it's part of our culture to think first about our lives. Vancouver seems like a great place to start thinking about the home again. Now, I'm not saying that that Vancouver is got a cultural history of thinking about the home in this way. Mm-hmm. It absolutely does not. Mm-hmm. And in Canada, we are very much influenced by the US and mass production and mass consumption. Mm-hmm. And it's not a subject that we take too naturally.
Mm-hmm. But there is that opportunity for people who have, cash to invest into their home, or the equity in their home to invest back into it. So,
right.
How does someone who wants to take this step to make, to redesign their home, to make it more for them and of them, what are the first steps that they would take to do that?
Right. No, that is, in 2016, the big opportunity in Vancouver. Vancouverites, there's an entire generation of Vancouver homeowners that are now in a position where they have that equity. Mm-hmm. They can invest in making an environment that's customized for them. Yeah, the first step, I would say, especially being an architect, is to find a good professional, a building professional, an architect, an interior designer. There are experts who are very qualified, and they do this.
Like yourself.
For people. Like myself.
Yeah.
It's not something that is really been a part of our culture in the past. Mm-hmm. In Europe, it's much more normal to think of your home as a much more intimate part of your life. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, in North America, it's not. And we don't think about architecture in those kind of more emotive, you could say hippy-dippy ways. Katy, I have a feeling that you've probably never seen the inside of a Swedish prison.
I have not.
I haven't either. I've seen photos. But in Sweden and in most of Scandinavia, the interiors of prisons are very well designed. They're very nurturing spaces. And they kind of actually look like contemporary college dorms, just maybe with a bit more IKEA furniture. But the Europeans and the Scandinavians in particular, they recognize culturally that what a prison is, it's an opportunity to prepare someone mm-hmm. to re-enter society. Mm-hmm. It's about nurturing that person. And so they use architecture as a kind of tool mm-hmm. for rehabilitation. And statistically, they can show you that much fewer people leaving the prison system reoffend and return. Whereas in the US and in Canada, we use architecture as a tool of punishment. And unfortunately, 80% of the people that leave prisons in North America end up reoffending and end up returning to prison. And this is maybe a strange example.
It's a great one, though.
Just to kind of point out the cultural differences. But so architecture is quite powerful. It has the power to change your life, both positively and negatively. If you think about deploying that for your own personal space, it's a lot of power that I think a lot of people in Canada isn't aware of and doesn't know that it's out there.
So how do you find a professional that best suits you? How would you go about interviewing, looking up, researching? Like how do you even start? I would have no idea where to start.
That's a good question. There are a lot of design professionals out there. It's, on the one hand, it's kind of like, how do you find any professional? Usually you ask for referrals, you ask your friends. I know Katy, we're friends. I can use the lawyer that Katy uses. I can use the accountant Katy uses. With design professionals, it's maybe slightly more personal. Because you're designing something just for you, the right architect for Katy may not be the right architect for you. So my only advice would be to just get out there and start talking to different architects or designers, meet them for coffee, look at their work, look at work online in magazines. It's a bit of a process of talking to a lot of these people and finding who you connect with, who's a good fit. It's quite important because if you think about it, these are the people that, if you take the process seriously, they will be translating your desires and your hopes for a better life. And they'll be translating that into a space that will either be nurturing you or not. So it's not something to be taken lightly.
Can you tell us about some of the projects you've done?
I've
heard rumors, so I would like to invite you to.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have a very diverse career in architecture. The funny thing about being an architect, when you're at a party and someone discovers you're an architect, they always ask you, oh, what kinds of buildings do you specialize in? Do you do hospitals? Do you do libraries? And for me, the interesting thing has always been the variety. Getting to think about a building type from first principles and learning everything you can about the requirements for that building type and really taking nothing for granted, not working off of templates or anything like that. Some of the projects I've done in the past include building for 200 sick cats. I've designed a facility for the Orthodox Jewish community to perform one highly specific ritual, which involves water. I've, of course, designed custom homes for people who had very specific requirements about what they were looking for and the life that they were looking to lead in these homes. Yeah, I've designed a new prototype for an office building of the future for the Sony Corporation. I've designed a 1.5 million square foot shopping center in Japan where they wanted to actually create a place that would attract mall rats. It would attract teens and 20-somethings that would normally hang out in shopping malls. And they wanted to actually customize the mall for those people, make it even more welcoming to them rather than just the default place where they could hang out. Yeah, so lots of different and crazy types of buildings, and each one has been a real learning experience for me and a lot of fun.
So if I was to approach you, I had no previous contact with you, and said, Jason, how would you describe yourself and like what you could provide for me? Like if you were introducing yourself to a new customer, because if what you can do is so broad, how do you narrow it so that one individual feels like, yes, this is who I do want to work with. They understand me, or they understand my hopes and dreams for this space.
Right. Yeah, good question. The first thing I'll say is when you're out there interviewing architects and designers, remember that they are also interviewing you. They're building a building or an environment is an expensive, labor-intensive task, and it takes a long time. So when you're looking for an architect, remember, you're probably going to spend years of your life with that person. And the architect is thinking that of you. So, but back to your question, what I like to do when I first meet a potential client is I like to let them do most of the talking. And I try to tease out as much as I can about their life, about their hopes, and about their requirements. And I become an active listener. And after the first meeting, I will go away. I'll reflect on what we discussed, and I'll usually compose a project description. And it'll be basically kind of be me reading back to them what they are telling me. And it's a good test for them to see, if we're really communicating well, if I really get what they're talking about.
That can be hard to do, right?
Yeah.
I have this dream here in my mind, and I need to get it to you to get it on paper.
Right. I mean, the thing about architecture, I see my role as not imposing my vision on you, but I'm a translator. I try to listen to what you say verbally, and I try to translate it. And I actually try to translate it into a set of experiences. A lot of people think that as architects, we design objects, we design buildings. But for me, there are a lot of people that can design a building that meets the building code and keeps out the rain and is on budget. I assume that all of that is going to happen. What I can offer is hopefully a little bit more profound and maybe a little bit more personal. And that is to translate your desires into experiences that you want to have in your life and which will nurture you and allow you to flourish. Maybe one of the best or most succinct summaries that I've ever read about what the effect of architecture is can be summed up by a person's inability to flourish in equal measure in whatever room they're in. So a person's inability to flourish in equal measure in whatever room they're in. So if you're in one room versus another room, your life is going to be different. Your potential, the potential that you realize is going to be different. And not all of us have the opportunity to have a space like that customized just for themselves.
Yeah.
But if you could, wouldn't you?
I would. Absolutely.
That's my big sales pitch, I think.
Fantastic. Jason, is there anything else that we should know about you?
In the context of this podcast, probably not. I think that pretty much says it all.
It's fantastic. I'm always in sort of awe when I hear about what you do, how you do it, and the theory of which apply and approach it with. So it's I just wish I had endless amounts of money to be able to take and design what would be my dream home. So yeah. Well, Jason, anything else? Sorry.
Well, it's a great career, and I have to say I love what I do, and I've been doing it for over 25 years, and I can say I've never worked a day in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what people ask me. They say, "How many hours a week do you work?" And I said, "I don't have an on and an off. I just am living my life." Because again, love what you do. You never work a day in your life. Jason, where can people find you?
Probably the best thing to do is just find me online, to go to my website. All my contact information is there. A little bit of information about my past history, and that is jasonkingarchitects.com. It's just my name, jasonkingarchitects.com. Pretty simple.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being here and taking the time and speaking with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Katy. It's been great.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you have any ideas or questions, please reach out to me at mackenziemortgage.com or via email at Katy, Katy, period, Mackenzie, Mackenzie at mortgagegroup.com. And we'll hope to hear you listening again next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.